Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I want to talk about player collecting. I want to talk about price swings and issues that sometimes happen when you're collecting and you're buying, let's say, a set, a player, very focused in one area. And that is, you see these really big swings in prices. And you don't know why. And what I'm going to tell you is that this hobby is small. It's precarious. And it only takes one or two people to swing the market one way or the other. That is why this hobby can be so easily manipulated. And you see it happening all the time. The recent sports card therapist issue just highlights the fact that player collectors and people who really focus on certain card types or certain issues are heavily invested sometimes in keeping those prices high. And the sad thing about it, though, is that, again, this hobby is really small. And I have seen it time and time again. I'm a Ken Griffey Jr. collector. I'm a Roberto Clemente collector. And I have seen giant swings in those prices over the years. And it always boils down to one or two people being very active in the hobby with really deep pockets. And then all of a sudden the prices go down because availability goes up. People want to cash in, and then boom, the cards go down. So that is what I want to really talk about with you guys, is how does this really occur? Like, how does one or two people really swing the market? And I'm going to show you an example here. I'm going to show you a player, Omar Vizquel. For those that don't know, in 2014, so about 9 years ago, the market for Omar Vizquel was tremendous. He was, at one time, maybe the hottest player in baseball, which is really odd. But here's a blowout form thread from 2014, and where these Topps high-tech diffractors, these 101s, were bringing thousands of dollars. And people are saying, like, and the one thing that's weird about this set is there's a lot of different versions of these cards. So it's not like there's just one diffractor. There's like a lot of different patterns. So there's a lot of 101s. And this guy was saying that no way a Kershaw sold for $330, a Trout sold for $350. Why is the Vizquel selling for thousands? And the guy down here in this comment thread that I think is really someone you should pay attention to is Joey Peapod. Joey Peapod is probably one of the biggest Griffey collectors in the world, and he buys and sells tons of rare 90s inserts. And he says, well, I got 500 for a Vizquel. And same thing happened to Jim Thome this year. He's made $50,000 to $60,000 on those players, right? On Omar Vizquel and Jim Thome. It seems unreal, right? It seems unreal, right? And people are arguing, calling shenanigans. As you go through the thread, you'll find out that someone paid $4,300 for this card. And it was, this guy's right here, a couple of guys chasing the big cards and having this battle on eBay trying to become the supreme Omar Vizquel super collector. And Joey Peapod says something very, very good right here when he says, cash in quick while you can, they go away eventually. And that's exactly what happened. These guys got tired of bidding against themselves, and the market for Omar Vizquel died. And before you say, well, he got in trouble and all that, this all happened well before any of that issue came out. He is Hall of Fame. Numbers keep going down since he got in trouble. If you want to Google what he did, you can look it up. But he is most likely not going to make the Hall of Fame now unless sentiment changes. Doesn't feel like it is. But if you go to Omar Vizquel, Here's the highest sell, $500 for a Vizquel rookie card, pop 10, or Pop 16 rare PSA 10. Okay, here is a 101 bat plate, right? Those are usually some of the bigger cards you'll ever get of a player. It's $460. It's a good price for a player who's not a Hall of Famer. But we're not talking $4,300, right? That was for that 101 card before, $4,300 in 2014. Now we're talking, even for a Jeter Vizquel offer, you're seeing, you know, these different prices, right? That are much, much lower, right? And it's pretty quickly, you see this 2016 diffractor, you know, for a buy now, probably under $100, right? Where these cards were going for $1,000 or more back in 2014. Later on, these cards are bringing less than $100. That is how much one person can affect this hobby market. How just a few collectors can swing this thing wildly one way or the other. And so as a player collector, you have to really look at, you know, is this a real natural uptick in pricing that's sustainable? Or is this two guys slugging it out? And then the next thing you should ask yourself, should I sell? Can I buy it back cheaper later, right? That is always going to be the question when you're talking about being involved in these high-end sports cards, that the prices go up and down so much that you don't know what is a sustainable, you know, price increase, right? Especially the really rare stuff that doesn't sell very often. A good example, you know, is the Marvel PMGs, right? Went way up, went way back down. And then I've seen sales recently of some cards in the $10,000 and $15,000 again, right? Now, maybe not the $30,000 to $40,000 we saw, but still, that's a good chunk of cash. But you have to ask yourself, is that a real sale? Is that being manipulated again by people who overspent the first time to try to get some money back out? You have to be careful, guys. But the thing I want you to take away from this video is not that you shouldn't be buying high-end cards or spending money is a bad idea if you collect something really heavily. Just understand, if you're in this market where you are going to specialize in one or two players, sets, kinds of cards, whatever it is, that it's easy for the prices to get manipulated, for one or two people to create shenanigans in the hobby to where you think you've got a good deal, and later on you find out that really it was, you know, people were taking advantage of you, people were shilling you because they knew you know, and that's why eBay protects IDs now, or someone trying to, you know, super collect. And that is another thing too, is if people know you're a super collector, you become a target to some extent, especially if you are, let's say, an obscure collector. Right? You collect players that maybe aren't as popular, so that when people run into those cards, they really know you are the guy that's going to pay the most, so they, you know, target you to get, you know, their money out of them. So, you know, I think a lot of people think the hobby today has grown so much that these prices can't be manipulated like they were before, that there's so many more collectors today, and there's not. I would say that the hobby has grown, but the part of the hobby that's grown the most is the flippers and the gamblers and the people opening repacks, the people trying to just, you know, make money in the hobby, you know, using this as kind of a a substitute for gambling. And so those people don't really care about the cards. And if they can make a lot of money by doing something like, you know, shill bidding or doing something else to make money on a card, they kind of do sometimes. And that's why you have to protect yourself as a super collector. You have to know, you know, what is a natural price increase? What is, you know, a card, you know, normally going to go for in a normal circumstance in the current market conditions. And you have to let cards go. You have to be okay with losing out if you're not satisfied with what the card's going for. You have to also remember that these cards will come up again. that no one, very few people I know of. I haven't heard of anyone dying with their cards. So eventually they come back around. With my Clemente collection, I always used to lament I would never get the 68 3D. And lo and behold, I got one this year. I was able to swing a deal to do it. And so it just shows you that, you can get cards that you never thought possible if you just persist. But again, this hobby is so easy manipulated. And the Omar Vizquel case is really an example of just two people making a market go nuts. Can you imagine an Omar Vizquel card bringing today of like $4,000 to $5,000? Okay, just any card, doesn't matter what it is. That is crazy, and it did happen. And those sales were legit, and those were two people just battling out. But again, that is one example. There's a ton of more. So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I'm making this video on Thanksgiving weekend. I got a busy week ahead of me. I got a lot of travel coming up. So I'll be making a few videos all at once, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Stay tuned. Bye.
I'm sitting here alone in darkness, waiting to be free.